It's Brian Shannon from alphatrends.net. Today's Friday, the 25th of September, 2020. We had a little bit of a mixed market here. Russell 2000 fell apart, as did the financial group. And NASDAQ is starting to lead the way once again. So still down for the month, but we're showing some good signs. Let's start with the S&P 500 as we always do. The volume weighted average price from this May low is what was tested yesterday. And so far we're bouncing from there. And, we got back above the 5-day moving average, and there's a couple things here. This is, first of all, let's actually go to a 30-minute time frame so we can see this with more clarity. The volume weighted average price from the day it gapped up and made a high had been resistance, and as it failed from there, we added another volume weighted average price from that touch. It basically passed the torch lower. Well, you can see that that became resistance here this week once, and then right here at the end of the week. So for next week, I think what we really want to see, number one, this blue one is also the week-to-date volume weighted average price. 5-day moving average is starting to flatten out. Monday we'll get rid of this data. So what I'd like to see is kind of something like this. If it were to do something like this, that is, the market maybe runs up a little bit further, maybe even just pokes slightly above that level, and then pulls back. We would then see this 5-day moving average start to head higher, and I think you could get long for a move up towards this volume weighted average price from the peak initially, and that's also approximately where we see the 20 and 50-day moving averages. So we're not out of the woods completely, but the NASDAQ did have a good day and week, in fact, up close to 2%. As we saw in here, it was also the volume weighted average price from the May low that's been holding up as where the buyers are found. Now in the 30-minute time frame, it's a little bit similar here in that we've got this prior high, and what I'd like to see Monday would be maybe a rally up through that, then pull back, trap some people, and then see it move higher, then start to work away at that volume weighted average price from the peak. If it can do that, that is, work away at that volume weighted average price from the peak and then jump back above it, then I think we could be looking at the market making a run for 290 plus. The Russell 2000 just continues to be garbage here. It was the May volume weighted average price that held in here for now in the 200-day moving average, but when you look at it, it's just been a waste of time. We've seen last or a couple weeks ago, we talked about this being the potential for a fail to break higher, and in fact it was. And these Russell 2000 stocks have just been miserable. They're still stuck below the declining 5-day moving average. Don't look to buy the weakness in here. Look for the strength to purchase. Semiconductors held up. I spoke about this group at length in the webinar, the free webinar I did on Wednesday. If you didn't see that, you're either not on my email list or you don't follow me on Twitter. So make sure you look at there for those. I do pop up emails or webinars once in a while. Anyways, the semiconductors, looking at a 30-minute time frame, you can see we're still right up today, right at the end of the day, right to the volume weighted average price from that peak, which has been important. So for this group, if they're to take leadership, I think what we want to see is kind of similar. Come down, make another higher low, and then be able to push higher. See that 5-day moving average rally up? I think in that case you would want to buy a breakout here with a stop probably just under that 167.5-ish level. Biotechs, this is why we didn't chase them on that break higher here of this resistance in that volume weighted average price from the peak, because they were extended. Always ask how it got to that point, and because on the daily time frame, the 50-day moving average was still declining. Well, we've come down pretty much to the volume weighted average price from the lows in here, and next week I'll be looking for these biotechs to see if they can kind of reclaim that volume weighted average price, hold on to it, and then perhaps begin to move higher. But it's still early. I update these levels every single day for subscribers. Financials, I've been talking about, people have been saying there's relative performance in here, and that's absolutely untrue. We see that, this group failed. Common sense technical analysis. This prior support acted as resistance right at the declining 200-day moving average. Now they've come down to the volume weighted average price from the low. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a little bit of a bounce next week up towards this level, and then we'll see what happens. But again, the weekly chart still looks like garbage, so I would just stay away from those completely. Today, myself and Alpha Trend subscribers bought into Apple a little bit, initial position as it got back above that 5-day moving average and made a higher high. above that flat to rising 5-day moving average. So now what we're looking for is, let's see how it handles the volume weighted average price from that peak. That's up at about 115.5. What I'm thinking in this for Apple is that it might run up to that level slightly through. Let's say it got through it. That would be the best thing. And then to come back down, test it, and find support there. And then I think Apple could be back in a strong uptrend once again. If you saw my tweet yesterday on, or I guess I did it last night on AAXN, which is, of course, Taser. This one, I put this on. It's still a little early because it's below the volume weighted average price from that peak, but I'm looking for a rally up towards that. I'm long some now. Maybe because of some, not the best reasons, but or not the reasons that you want, but maybe with more social unrest, it seems, in this country, that the Taser stock tends to rally based on that. So that's one to keep an eye on. Other names to keep an eye on next week, I think AMD is starting to show that it's settling down near this 50-day moving average. The 50-day moving average is still rising. Looking over to a 65-minute time frame, you can see it's still stuck below the volume weighted average price from that peak. So again, what I want to do is see it do something like this. Maybe comes down, battles with that a little bit, and then is able to move higher with it back holding above the volume weighted average price from that peak. What that would tell us is that the average participant from here is now gaining money if it gets back above it, and that the profit taking is over, or at least it would appear to be over. It would be the buyer's game to lose if that were to happen. For now, the sellers are still in control, but they're losing control, and it's becoming more neutral here over the intermediate term time frame from the beginning of this month. Other names to keep an eye on, let's see, Generac, GNRC, this one's been holding beautifully along the volume weighted average price from that most recent earnings gap. You can see that there, and the stock is up, close to all-time highs. So the volume weighted average price off the peak, you can see we just kind of did a little battle with it today. So it's kind of pinching, and what we'd like to see is something like this. Always anticipate the scenarios that are most likely, and then as that 5-day moving average comes up, then perhaps we would want to buy it above this peak here, with our stop maybe underneath this level or a little bit lower, whatever your time frame is. I always speak from the time frame of a swing trader. What else do we have? SDC. This one, Alpha Trend subscribers, we had a great trade from here up into this area, and now it's pulled back, it's settled down. This prior band of resistance seems to be holding a support. That's also where we see the volume weighted average price come off of the IPO. So on the 30-minute time frame, we're holding above these VWAPs, and the volume weighted average price from the peak we got right up to this afternoon. So I don't want to buy it here. I certainly wouldn't want to buy it on a break of this peak the way some people will, simply because where has it come from? It just came from, let's just call it $10 to $11.25. So it just rallied 11%, 12% here over the course of a couple days. What we want to see is let the emotional breakout chasers chase it. I want to, and if it goes, it goes. I'd rather see it pull back like this, carve out a higher low, let that 5-day moving average flatten out, and then I'd rather buy it over here with a stop then underneath this level. This is the way I look at stocks and present them to subscribers every single day at Alpha Trends. I never tell anyone what to do. It's up to you what to do with your money. I provide the guidance and the optimal scenarios. If you haven't taken a look, feel free to do so. I've got a way. If you sign up, let's say Sunday, you'll be able to get 2 webinars in, because I do them every other Monday night. So next Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern, and then in 2 weeks you'd see another one. So that'll do it. Have a good weekend.